Good late morning or early afternoon for some of you. I had a video scheduled to go up yesterday afternoon talking about the college football playoff. I was going to talk about what I thought should happen. And then I woke up Sunday morning and the committee had already made their decision. I didn't think they were going to announce their decision until Tuesday evening, like they usually do. So my video became out of date. So I deleted it and was like, I'll just make another video on Monday. And here's that video now. So yeah, the committee has made their decision. Again, I just thought they were going to. I would have uploaded the video in the morning if I knew the committee was going to jump on it that early, just so I would have something to say about it because it is interesting and it is important for my team. But regardless, I do think the committee got it completely right. I think that their final rankings are the right. It's the right way to go about things. Like the AP poll, maybe the AP poll will be a little bit different. And it makes sense that the AP poll would be different because they're just looking at resumes. The college football playoff, I think, is obligated to not just look at resumes. So, in the interest of making the best possible 14 playoff and getting the four best teams in, I think they did it. So, the rankings that they ended up with was number 1 Michigan, number 2 Washington, number 3 Texas, number 4 Alabama, and then Florida State 5, Georgia 6. And obviously Florida State's very unhappy about this because they get left out of the playoff, but two teams that lost a game get in. So I can understand why they're unhappy. I read a whole bunch of tweets and a whole bunch of statements from Florida State and Florida State associated people really, really unhappy about the decision because, yeah, on the surface, it looks bad. We're 13-0. We won every game we played. Why aren't we in there? But I think that after really thinking about it last night, watching that Florida State Louisville game and talking about it with people on chat, I think this was clearly the correct decision. And again, it's all about what is more important, the resume or the team. Florida State's resume is very good. And I say that even knowing they've played a cupcake schedule. But Florida State, the team right now, is not all that good. If Florida State in their current situation had to play a full schedule, they'd probably lose 3 or 4 games at least. If they had their third string quarterback in there for a full season in his current iteration, what's that team really doing? So nobody needs to see Michigan or Washington get a free win in the college football playoff from a third string quarterback. Even if Roadmaker would have come back for the playoff, he's not really that much better. And at the end of the day, I think the priority of the committee needs to be to reward the 4 best teams, the teams that are actually going to be able to be competitive. Because unlike the old days when college football rankings were actually made to determine a champion, college football is now letting a game determine the champion. So, that being the case, how can you put Florida State in there when they don't have maybe their, well, I don't want to say best player, but their best player on offense probably, or most important? There's the biggest downgrade from him to his backup. Like, what is that team without Jordan Travis? We've seen it for the past couple games. It ain't really pretty. Pretty enough to win against weak competition, but you combine that with the fact that Florida State played a cupcake schedule. They had no really good wins. And the teams that they were supposedly going to be challenged by ended up being not that good, like Clemson. It was just, to me, kind of a slam dunk. So, obviously, I do understand that a lot of Florida State fans are really unhappy with this decision, and I get it, but at the same time, I don't think there was any other decision to make. Like, if Florida State gets in, fair or unfair, they would have been boat raced in that first game by Michigan or Washington or whoever. So, the rest of the rankings, Michigan was number 1, which I think was the only thing that you could do. They have to be number 1. Washington's number 2. That's the only thing they can do. They have to be number 2, especially after that Oregon win. You can't really say, oh, they haven't looked impressive in a couple months now. They looked very impressive on Friday. And then they put Texas above Alabama, which was also obviously the thing they had to do because, well, Texas beat Alabama. And when a team like Texas agrees to go on the road in week 2 to play Alabama and then wins, you have to reward it. You have to reward it. So if Texas didn't get in, that would have been disgusting. That would have been awful. That would have been a disgrace. And yeah, Alabama, I mean, if they had decided to put FSU in over Alabama, I would have understood because they have the better resume. Alabama hasn't exactly put together a great season, even outside of the one loss. Like some of these wins are ugly. But Alabama actually has a chance to do something in the playoff, and Florida State right now does not. So I don't know if it's fair, but it's correct. That's how I can put this one. Maybe it's not fair. Maybe Florida State couldn't have done much more than they did because they did win every game they played. But even if it's not fair, it's still the right thing to do. And maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, this is why college football has a little bit of an advantage over other sports. When one team is clearly not going to be able to be competitive despite having a great season, like if the Los Angeles Lakers get the number 1 seed in the NBA, and then LeBron James and Anthony Davis both tear their ACLs right before the playoffs, the Lakers would still have to play their playoff games. They'd still be the number 1 seed, and they'd probably get beat because without LeBron and AD, they're no good. But you'd still have to let them in. But in college football, they can look at a situation like that and go, why let them in? We're only letting 4 teams in. It's really hard to get in. Why give one of our precious 4 spots to a team that's just going to get smacked? And yeah, that was the only really, I think, compelling wrinkle in this selection. Were they going to put Florida State 3, 4, or 5? And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think Georgia had a case, as weird as that is to say. I don't think any other team had a real case. So that's your playoff. So we play Texas. And when I made my video that I was going to post yesterday, but I didn't end up posting it, I said that very likely we play Texas no matter what. And I'm down for it. Obviously, it's a good team, but it's not a team that I look at and go, oh, they're just going to drill us. We got no chance. That defense is going to hit Penix 300 times. I don't think any of that. I think Texas is a team that they got a quarterback who hasn't looked great since the injury until the Big 12 title game. And they have a great run defense. I think you can pass on them a little bit, though. And I'm ready to take on the challenge. Like, I'm not thinking this is going to be a breeze like I did with if it had been Florida State. If we had gotten Florida State at 3, then I would have been like, okay, this is going to be an easy win. No stress, no nothing. Just let's get this done and move on to the title game. Texas, of course not. They're really good. But I'm not if if Washington ends up playing, like, let's say Alabama actually beats Michigan and Alabama is that hot going into the national title game. If that happens, I'm going to look at that and go, I don't know what we can do here, man. I don't know if we can handle a dual threat quarterback like Milroe. I don't know if we can handle that Alabama pass rush. But Texas, a little bit different. All right, so that's what happened, and that's how I feel about it. Right thing to do. Maybe it's not fair, but it's right. So Washington plays Texas on New Year's Day, so it'll be a long time before I make another Huskies video. But we have more meaningful games to play, and ain't that awesome? All right, see you guys later. Bow down to Washington.